We have recently received a new pre-launch trailer for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, as well as extra promotional content released alongside it. So let's go over all of it, as there is a lot to unpack. We first see an expansive shot of the Sky Islands, facing towards Lake Hylia, where we once again get a good look at the mighty spewing Death Mountain. On the island to the left, we can see several large square platforms from the past trailer, which will be used to create various constructions using Ultra Hand. On the surface, we can get a look at two towers, one of them being atop a small plateau beside Lake Colomo, and the other being at the base of the dueling peaks. We can also see a glowing pattern found on the side of Lake Hylia, as well as a large malice pit located on Mount Hylia. We then get a shot of a few Sky Islands, where we get to see a soldier construct facing off against a choo-choo. It is clear that these automations are not evil, and are merely protecting the Sky Islands from intruders, such as monsters or even Link. In the distance, we see a circular island with a construct on top emitting a red light. This seems to be the same island we saw in the gameplay demonstration, with a dormant block golem resting on its center. We also get a glimpse of the spiraling rock Zonai shrines we have prominently seen in past trailers scattered across Hyrule, which we now know will be used to teleport across the world. Next, we see a shot of a ranger construct, the same type of construct from the gameplay demonstration, where we see it chopping down a tree with a stone axe, the same kind of axe we have seen Link wielding on the first official trailer, as he climbed the side of one of the islands. Then, we see a beautiful shot of Link diving past the Sky Islands, as the title of the game appears on screen, and there is a lot we can see from this shot alone. We first see one of the cube-like structures we have seen a lot in the past trailers, which many believe to be the floating Lomei labyrinths that have risen to the sky. As Link continues to fall, we see two Zonai shrines on different corners of the large island which, judging by the gameplay demonstration, will serve as the tutorial section of Tears of the Kingdom, with perhaps 4 of these shrines being present in this large island. We then get a good look at the ceiling of the large structure, which appears to have a sort of combat arena, where we may fight against a boss of some kind as a final trial of the tutorial section before leaving the Sky Island. The circular structure in front of the large building will be important later in the trailer, so please keep it in mind. On Hyrule's surface, we once again see a tower near Sahasra Slope, as well as another on the base of Death Mountain. Another tower can be seen here, which looks to be standing close to the Sacred Ground ruins, and another is located atop the small plateau beside Lake Colomo. Several malice pits can also be seen, one located on Merkai Island in the Laneiro wetlands, another located in the forest where the Great Ferry of Kakariko was located, another beside the outpost ruins replacing the stone talus that was located there, and another beside Deja Village replacing the giant fallen tree. We see 2 geoglyphs on the ground too, which we have already seen in past trailers. This one resembling a Molduga is found near Batria Lake, while this one is located on the side of Lake Hylia. On the Japanese website, we also have a small video of the same general area from a different angle, revealing even more. We can see many malice chasms much more clearly, 2 of which could be seen on the trailer shot, those being the one near Deja Village and the one near the outpost ruins. 2 more can be seen on the Great Plateau, one replacing the Oman Ao Shrine, which was somewhat seen in the second trailer, and the other replacing the Jabai Shrine in the Eastern Abbey. Another of these malice chasms is also seen on the central island of Lake Hylia, replacing the Janaga Shrine. But on the other side of the bridge of Hylia, there is a large whirlpool on the water, which brings to mind the warping whirlpools from A Link to the Past. It is possible that this may take us to another body of water in Hyrule, or perhaps it is the entrance to an underwater cavern. We can also see another of the smallest chasms besides Spectacle Rock, alongside a new tower which is right on the edge of the Gerudo Desert Canyon. It seems that these new landmarks and structures are replacing others found in Breath of the Wild. The next shot sees Link landing on the Whistling Hill. We can see another of the Zonai shrines here, the same Zonai shrine that we can faintly see in the previous shot, in the exact same location as the Wahko Kata shrine. This raises a big problem. If these structures rose from the ground, and assuming that they work like the Sheikah shrines and have a large complex underground, this would come into conflict with the Sheikah shrine. Which one is above the other? If the Sheikah shrine and its rooms are above the Zonai shrine, then the Zonai shrine would push the Sheikah shrine and its rooms upward above the ground, and the opposite would also be true. However, these structures could have instead fallen from the sky, which would mean that they do not have an underground complex. Perhaps these shrines have a portal that leads to another realm entirely, a spirit world where the Zonai trials await the hero, separated from the regular world, similar to the trial of the sword. Another of these towers can be seen near Sahasra Slope, which was seen in the last trailer, as well as the ring-shaped sky ruin we also saw in the last trailer. If we look on the left, we can also see that the entirety of the bottomless swamp has been removed. How it was removed in universe is a mystery, however. Replacing it is a smaller monster encampment that stands on the edge of what once was the bottomless swamp. The next shot we see is a close-up of Hateno village, which now seems to have an infatuation with mushrooms, with mushroom-like structures as well as mushroom-dressed people being present in the village. Of these people, some are instantly recognizable from Breath of the Wild. We can see Eevee with the same clothes and broom, the elderly Leop walking by, Sophie from the Ventes clothing boutique standing outside her shop, talking to whom I suspect to be a mushroom-clothed wearing Botrick who may be visiting Hateno village, and an unknown person also wearing mushroom attire, which judging by the white hair, could be the elderly Uma. And in the distance, we also see a grown-up Aster walking alongside Zeldon, who is seen wearing a mushroom-themed attire. We also get a closer look at the tower standing at the peak of Mount Lanayru, seen on prior trailers. We then see a shot of the ruins of Hyrule Castletown, where Hylians had made a small encampment. We can once again see the tower of Sahasra Slope, as well as the ring-shaped sky ruin, but most curiously is the absence of the tower on the peak of Mount Lanayru. Perhaps we have to manually activate and rise the towers one by one this time around, similar to how the Great Plateau Shrine was on the ground at the start of Breath of the Wild, and we had to manually raise it. Only this time, instead of the tower sending a signal to Hyrule Castle which in turn activates the other towers, we will have to find them ourselves. It is in the next shot that we get a good look at Kakariko village, which appears to have new wooden constructions around it. We also see a close-up of the large ring-shaped sky structure, as well as yet another Zonai shrine to the left of Lantern Lake. The next shot we see is from the bridge of Thyflo ruins, looking in the direction of the large hurricane above Mount Hebra. We will come back to this hurricane later. To the right, we also see the North Lomé Labyrinth, which unlike in the other shots, is still on the ground. We then see some sky ruins in the Gerudo Desert, as a massive structure emerges from the sands, which may very well be showcasing the return of traditional Zelda dungeons themed around the Zonai. Thanks to Titan Puma on Twitter, we know that this exact location is actually right next to the Dragon's Exile, where we can see that both the Leviathan bones and the Great Fairy have both been removed. Right where the structure rises, we see there are ancient Gerudo ruins in Breath of the Wild, which appear to be missing in Tears of the Kingdom. This may have been reimagined instead as this new dungeon. To the left of this structure, we can see yet another of the Zonai shrines, standing dead center in the Arbiter's grounds. We are then followed by a shot of the floating Hyrule castle surrounded by malice, as a large number of sky rocks fall around it and across all of Hyrule, where we see many terrified Sheikah villagers looking on in horror. And then we are greeted to probably one of the most interesting shots in the trailer, as we see whom we suspect to be Ganondorf. However, this depiction of Ganondorf differs drastically to the mummified Ganondorf we saw underground, as he has tendrils of malice for hair and what appears to be scales on his toga, which instantly bring to mind the Demon King Demise, the main antagonist from Skyward Sword and precursor to Ganon, the incarnation of Demise's malice and hatred. Jumping ahead in the trailer, we get a better look at Ganondorf, but his design appears to be vastly different to what we saw in the prior shot, as we see that Ganondorf's hair is tied into a ponytail. By judging by the pillars next to Ganondorf, as well as his pose and the lighting of the blood moon that matches both shots, it's clear that these two shots are from the same sequence. It is very possible that Ganondorf is harnessing the power of the blood moon to awaken his true demon form, whose face bears a striking resemblance to Demise himself. It is very possible that, when Ganondorf is harnessing the full might of the power of malice, he transforms into a form that closely resembles Demise, as he is an incarnation of Demise's hatred. Demise is not a name, but a title, Shuen no Mono, the one of Demise, or simply the Demise. That is Ganon now. He's fully assumed the mantle of the Demise, the embodiment of the apocalypse. We are then shown this shot of Link and Zelda falling after Link was attacked by Ganondorf's malice in the last trailer. It is then immediately followed by Link failing to catch Zelda, as she plummets to the dark depths below, a shot we saw in the E3 2021 teaser for Tears of the Kingdom. But one thing that is different in this shot is that Zelda's hand as well as her waist is glowing with a golden light. There are three possibilities for what this may be. The first option is Zelda's sealing power from Breath of the Wild, which may be activating in this moment due to the distress of the situation. Option 2 is the Triforce of Wisdom, or the full Triforce, which Zelda may possess. And option 3 is the Recall ability, which we will talk about later in much more detail. Following this, we get a shot of Gerudo Desert from the East Barrens, where we can see several sinkholes have emerged in the location where the divine beast Barnaboris rampaged, and later the Moldu King. To the right, close to the Champion's Gate, we can see yet another of the Zonai shrines, and for the first time, we also see its glowing green entrance. Behind the shrine, we can also see another of the Malice chasms atop that cliff. We also see a geoglyph on the Safia's table, and what appears to be a new type of spiked monster encampment amidst the Gerudo ruins. We are then shown Link running within a large cavern under what appears to be Death Mountain, as we see lava flows on each side of the shot, fire embers in the environment, igneous rock prevalent on the landscape of the volcano, and even Link is wearing the firebreaker armor of the Gorons to protect him from the intense heat. Link can also be seen carrying a Lysal shield on his back. In the distance, we can see a large stone structure unlike those we have seen in the sky, appearing to be a mix of Zonai and Goron architecture. It is in this next shot that we see 4 Zonai skyships adorned with clear rito patterns. It appears that the 4 races of the land will have unique Zonai architecture mixed with their own culture. The ships appear to be based on a Viking longboat, with the oars of the ship resembling bird feathers, furthering the connection with the Rito tribe. This shot also appears to be right beside the large vortex of Hebra Peak, with Link even seen wearing the Snowquill armor provided by the Rito tribe. Things get weird with the next shot, as we witness orbs of water floating in the sky islands held together by a Zonai rock in the center, which may hold some form of gravitational pull. Link can jump into these water bubbles and swim through them, which seemingly confirms that we may indeed get underwater exploration. These water orbs appear to form from pedestals, with the bubbles rising to the sky and perhaps dissipating or popping at a certain point, with the rocks perhaps then falling back down to the pedestal to repeat the process all over again. Like the Goron and Rito architecture shown in the prior shots, these sky islands have a strong Sora motif, especially with the blue coloration of the stone and the water-based puzzles. We are then shown Link skydiving through a large vertical tunnel adorned with Zonai rings, which all emit a series of red lasers Link has to avoid while falling. Given that this is a very deep and wide hole, this is likely not on the Sky Islands, but instead on the surface of Hyrule leading deep underground. Link is seen wearing a new Rito-inspired skydiving suit, which appears to grant Link more control while free falling. We then see Link in what appears to be the inside of the spherical islands we saw in the last trailers, as well as the one we can later see in the trailer, especially given the large circular entrance it has. Link is seen pushing a capstan-like mechanism which rotates the circular room around him, and within this very room we can finally get a good look at this orb dispenser we caught glimpses of in the gameplay presentation, the map of which revealing that this is some kind of item shop. How this works exactly is unclear, but we will probably get some random material from these orbs for us to craft weapons or even new parts for vehicles. Going back to the first official trailer, I also noticed one of the orb dispensers atop one of these islands. We didn't have context back then for what it was, and quite frankly we all missed it, but now we can see that it was right there, clear as day. We then see a shot of Link paragliding between the walls of what appears to be the Lome Labyrinths, and judging by the blue particles, the same one seen on this shot from the second trailer, this must be one of the floating labyrinths. Following this shot, we see Link riding on Epona towards a group of monsters gathered at the gate of Fort Hateno. We can see not only blue bokoblins with their bident-like horns, and a blue moblin, but black bokoblins also with trident horns, showcasing a progression of the horn types between bokoblins. Some of the monsters can be seen wielding weapons corroded by malice, like Link's sword shown in this promotional screenshot of Link facing off against the block golem. Link is also seen twirling a large Zonai spear which we have not seen before. Aside from Link and the monsters, several Hylians can be spotted on this shot, such as this horse-riding soldier, these two men facing off against a blue bokoblin, this person wielding what appears to be a pot lid as a shield and a metal pan for a helmet, and these three farmers preparing to face off against the blue moblin. We then see a shot of Link ascending on a type of Sheikah elevator. The platform that Link is standing on is the same one we saw in the last trailer, the text around it translating to transport. We can also see that there is Sheikah text on the walls, which when translated read tower, confirming that this room we saw on the last trailer is indeed found atop the towers scattered across Hyrule, with this being new iterations of the Sheikah towers. We can also see that Link has a wire coil on his hip, the same type we saw one of the Sheikah Guardian claws holding in the last trailer. But most importantly, we see Link holding the same Sheikah slate we saw Zelda holding on promotional artwork, resembling a Nintendo Switch. This confirms that we will, in fact, use the slate not only to see the map and teleport between the Zonai shrines and towers, but we will likely also have a Hyrule Compendium with enemy information, and perhaps functioning rooms like in Breath of the Wild. We then are met with a face shot of a brand new character, a new godlike person that is undoubtedly the same figure shown in the fresco of the first trailer, both even possessing a third eye and long ears. We can see that his hair is tied with the same type of jewelry as that of Link's hand, showing that this being has a direct connection to both the hand and the Zonai tribe. This individual is undoubtedly based on the dragons from Breath of the Wild, being a humanoid dragon person. Perhaps this individual is the human form of one of the dragons, possibly the new dragon we saw flying above the Sky Islands, especially given that this individual and the dragon both have white and golden hair. If this is true, and the dragons can take on humanoid forms, then this may also apply for Dinral, Nadra and Farosh, and possibly even more unseen dragons. This individual seems to be battle scarred in this shot, and based on the malice particles floating in the air, he may be facing off against Ganondorf himself. While the two individuals behind him at first glance seem like Tulin and Riju seen later in the trailer, upon closer inspection, these are brand new characters. The Rito character to the left, whom is seen holding both a green gem and a great eagle bow we can also see Tulin wielding, has black feathers and talons of a darker color than Tulin, as well as Revali and Teba. And the Gerudo on the right, who is seen holding the scimitars of the Seven, which appear to be tainted with malice, is wearing a white dress, instead of the black dress Riju is seen wearing. This means that these characters must be the ancient champions from the long distant past, perhaps the very same champions from 10,000 years ago, detailed in the Sheikah tapestry, but I think that they are from an even earlier era, as Ganondorf has not yet become Calamity Ganon during this time, since in order for Calamity Ganon to have appeared as we saw him in Breath of the Wild and the tapestry, Ganondorf must have been sealed for a long time to create his Phantom Ganon from his seeping malice, which means that this scene here not only must be a flashback or memory, but might also be the exact moment where Ganondorf was sealed deep underground. Take note of this green glowing jewel on the Rito's hip, as it will be very important later. Next, we see a shot of Link and Epona atop Stinger Cliffs, where we can see Ebon Mountain in the distance, as well as Cape Chaos and Eventide Island. One major difference that can be instantly seen is that, unlike in Breath of the Wild, Ebon Mountain has a cherry blossom tree very much akin to the one seen on Satori Mountain. There also appears to be a large tower on Ebon Mountain, likely a new variety of monster encampment. We are then shown a shot of a large Zonai structure in a pitch black location, which is undoubtedly deep below the ground. We can see a brand new Zonai construct latched onto a giant wall adorned with the Zen Garden sand patterns prominently seen in promotional artwork, and by the looks of it, this will very possibly be a new boss. The way that this construct is encrusted onto the wall immediately brings to mind Godon from the Wind Waker, which, much like this automation, was also encrusted onto the wall of the Tower of the Gods. On the side of the wall, we can also see writings in the new Zonai script. Thanks to the amazing translation work made by Soisaurus Roar, Lorulian historian, and Mati P, we now know that this writing on the wall translates to Ryui Sise, and when contextualized, it reads Ryu Ishise, meaning Dragon's Throne. Similarly, the writings showcased on the logo also have a translation, transcribing to Ryuise, which when transcribed reads Ryu Ise, meaning Dragon Era, although Ryu can also be used to refer to an Imperial Jade, with Ise also meaning Relic, which could also mean that it translates to Jade Relic, which the logo also seems to depict. We then see a shot of Link in the sanctum of Hyrule Castle, which does not appear to be destroyed or have any malice. As Link already has the green hand, this shot takes place after Link obtains it after the awakening of Ganondorf. However, Ganondorf is nowhere to be seen in the shot, and rather than particles of malice floating in the area, which would be expected given the amounts of malice shown in every shot of Hyrule Castle, instead we see particles of white light, often associated with Princess Zelda. And speaking of the princess, we finally get to see her in her new ceremonial Zonai gown. This shot takes place in the same location where Zelda was shown in the last trailer, where she held out her hand for the hero. It is here that we hear the voice of a man, which I strongly believe to be the voice of this new dragon person, especially given that we later see Zelda and this figure together shortly after.
Zelda, we rely on your knight, and that legendary sword he carries. Our last line of defense will be Link.
During this figure's speech, we see a shot of the Mosasaur in the Korok forest. It appears that after Breath of the Wild's events, Link laid the Mosasaur to rest in its pedestal, and now he is obtaining it once again. Given that his hand is not corrupted yet, this must take place before they venture underground, where Link is clearly seen with the Mosasaur on multiple occasions. On the background, we also can see some Koroks, and of course, the large roots of the great Deku Tree. As the figure finishes his speech, we see a close-up of Princess Zelda, as the dragon person places his hand on her shoulder, where we can see his arm has the exact same jewelry that the green hand of Link possesses, with a large white jewel glowing with an ethereal yellow light in its center. We also get a better look at Zelda's design, where we can see she is wearing earrings identical to the closed lotus flowers seen all across the Sky Islands and on the Ranger constructs. And on her neck, we can see that she has a yellow jewel etched with some markings. This, like the previously mentioned jewels seen on the Rito's hip, will be very important soon, so keep them in mind. This shot ends with Zelda saying,
Link.
We next see a shot of Link on the same stone glider from the first official trailer, as we see not only the same puzzle that Link used Ultra Hand on the second official trailer, but another of the orb dispensers at the edge of the Sky Island, as well as another of the floating labyrinths. As the camera reveals a panoramic shot of the sky, we once again get a glimpse at yet another orb dispenser on a different island. We also see two malice holes on the surface which we have already seen before, the one near Deja Village and the other near Scouts Hill. A tower, which has also been seen before, is also seen here, close to the dueling peaks. We are then shown a shot of Link facing off against two soldier constructs on the same floating islands shown in the gameplay presentation, with one wielding a rusty broadsword and the other a stick and a rusty shield. Link, on the other hand, is seen wielding a royal claymore fused together with a royal shield. This particular combination allows Link to parry the construct's attacks with his newly crafted weapon. Following this, we see the large orb island we saw the inside of earlier in the trailer. We can see a large portion of Hyrule from this altitude, with recognizable landmarks such as the Rift Peninsula, but something that stands out to me is the coloration of the water both in the East Reservoir Lake as well as the circular lake where Varuta remained for most of Breath of the Wild upon freeing it. The water seems to have turned to mud, having a brown coloration in contrast to the blue water of the ocean beside it. Perhaps the waters of the Lanayru region becoming uninhabitable for the Sora, hindering their very way of life, as they won't be able to swim and hydrate themselves. We then see a large Goron-built room in Death Mountain, where Link is seen fighting a rolling creature engulfed in flames. This creature has chains on it very similar to the ones Daruk had, so this may very well be a Goron of some kind, and given the two at the door, this may just be a Goron combat trial. Link is seen wielding a Cobalt Crusher, which has been fused together with the new horns of the Blue Moblins. The walls of the cave also seem to be glowing with a pinkish hue, very similar to that of Malice. Perhaps this is due to the Malice spewing from Death Mountain, having seeped into the rock itself, possibly even hindering the way of life of the Gorons by tainting their food source. Following this, we see a shot of Link and Tulin ascending through ancient Sky Ritual ruins within the hurricane of Mount Hebra, bouncing off one of the sails of the flying skyships, with two other skyships also shown in the distance. As they ascend, we can see two constructs in one of the islands, as well as another of the Zonai shrines. But most curiously, Tulin is seen to be surrounded by a strange teal energy. We will come back to this later. The true question here is, why is Tulin accompanying Link instead of Teba? What happened to his father? Back in Breath of the Wild, he got injured while helping us take down Valmedo, but that was years ago, as Tulin has now grown up. So what is his father up to? Did he die? I hope not, but knowing Ganondorf's back, no one is safe. Another possibility is that he may be the new chief of Rito Village, or he may be too old now for combat, now passing the mantle of champion and protector of the village to his son. The next shot is taken on the Ash Swamp, on the road leading towards the Dueling Peak stable. It is here that we see Link escorting a group of 4 Hylians with a makeshift carriage pulled by Epona. It seems that we may have escort missions, where we will have to take people to several places in Hyrule. This reminds me of the escort mission from Twilight Princess, where we had to safely transport Telma and Ilia to Kakariko, as well as side quests in Spirit Tracks, where we transported people and goods to other stations using our train. This next shot sees Link facing off against a rock Octorok as he uses his recall power to reverse time on the boulder to return it back at the unsuspecting foe. This shot is taken from the east side of the Death Caldera, where in Breath of the Wild it was completely submerged in lava. Tears of the Kingdom will have all the lava of Death Mountain be cleared away, revealing much more explorable areas around Death Mountain. To the right, there is the entrance to a new mine that seems to be glowing blue, but we can't really know for sure what is hiding in its depths. We then see a shot of Eventide Island. Several trees have been removed in order to fit this new monster encampment. There is a red structure on the beach, which seems to be a small tipi tent, and right next to it we also see a glimpse of what appears to be another Malice Chasm. But the most important aspect of this shot is Link's new Zonai shield, which glows with the same green energy as his hand, in a similar way as the guardian shields of the Sheikah, with perhaps these ones being acquired from constructs. Attached to this new shield is a Zonai rocket, which launches Link skyward without the need to climb or use ascend, propelled by a green flame. We once again are showcased Sky Islands themed around the Sora, where we can see the floating bubbles in the distance. However, these ones appear to be more yellow in color compared to the bluer ones of the past shot, but perhaps it's just the lighting. One of the bubbles is flickering, perhaps as it is reaching the end of its path and about to disappear. We can see Link also perform high jumps to reach a set of floating platforms that stick out from the rest of the structures. Perhaps these platforms can be moved by Link using Ultra Hand, or even summoned using a similar power to Cryonis, where, rather than placing platforms on the water, we would instead place them in the air. We also get a closer look at what we initially thought to be Malice flowing down from the islands to the surface of Hyrule, but it seems to just be a different type of sludge, which may be the cause of the murky waters of Lanayru, given we see one of these sludge columns flow into its waters. But something of note is that not only do we see the floating cube like we keep seeing in the trailers, but we can actually see the North Lomé Labyrinth right below it too. So this confirms that the labyrinths we explored in Breath of the Wild are not floating, and instead we have brand new labyrinths in the sky. We are once again shown a large cavernous area underneath Death Mountain, where we see Link facing off against a variation of a soldier construct, which appears to be one of a higher level, possibly a level 2 soldier construct, as they ride some rail tracks on stone minecarts with the Goron emblem with a strong Zonai motif, which have a propeller attached to the back of them pushing them forward. This immediately reminds me of the Fire Temple from Spirit Tracks, which had a large portion of it consisting of moving Link and objects such as the Big Key through large railway systems suspended over lava. The construct is seen wielding the same bow as Link was seen wielding in the gameplay presentation. This cavern not only showcases the closed lotus flowers we also see in the sky, but we can also clearly see one of the large underground trees we saw in the last trailer. This strange rock with red veins also makes a return, having last been seen on the second official trailer in an encampment on Death Mountain's side, These rocks seem to have a gameplay purpose rather than being decoration, but as of yet I can't say for sure what they may be. This next shot is taken right in the Ukuku Plains, right beside the East SOCIAL Bridge in the Akala region. It is here that we see Link piloting a large stone automation he has constructed using 4 wheels also used for the car, an arm with a dragon head attached, and a steering lever also used to control the car's directions. Using their large construct, Link faces off against a Stone Talos monster outpost mounted by 3 blue bokoblins. Link is seen wearing a new outfit, a Zonai armor with a helmet adorned with a crown of orange feathers. The horn of the dragon head attached to the end of the arm begins to glow with a golden light, likely as this is meant to be a depiction of Farosh, and thus it is a thunder weapon, similar to the flamethrower dragon head which appears to be modeled after Din Rao. Speaking of Din Rao, in the next shot of Link riding Epona towards a monster encampment in the Laniru wetlands, between Banan Island and Koponga village ruins, we see Link wearing a mask adorned with bone horns which are shaped identical to those of Din Rao. I am unsure if this will give us some fire related ability, such as fire resistance, but I think it is safe to say that the other dragons will get similar masks as well. Link is seen fusing an arrow with a ruby, which begins to set on fire. This is due to rubies containing the elemental power of fire. This means that the other gems will provide the arrows with the other elemental powers. Rubies, of course, will grant the power of flame, sapphires the power of ice, topaz the power of electricity, opals the power of water, amber the power of earth, diamonds the power of light, and perhaps emeralds may be also added into the game to grant the arrows the power of wind, as wind is often represented with the color green. Epona is also seen wearing a new horse armor, which appears to be made by the Zonai, as it is adorned with the same lotus ornament found in all Zonai constructions. We can see the tower located near Sahasra Slope in the distance, evidenced by the donut-shaped Zonai ruin on the pillars of Levia, and if we look closely, we can also spot a deactivated Zonai shrine atop this Sky Island. We then see another shot of a monster encampment, where we see Link shoot a Zonai construction containing a vast number of lasers which begin to spin, damaging all enemies in sight. I don't know if it's Link who built this himself, but perhaps we may find pre-built contraptions across Hyrule with the sticky glue. Following this, we find ourselves in the eye of the Hebra Storm, where we see Link and Tulin facing off against a giant insectoid ice dragon. Its eyes are made of malice, which may indicate that these are its weak spots, as it is so often in Zelda. The boss appears to be exiting an energy portal, which perhaps suggests that it has the ability to teleport from one location to another. As I may have accidentally predicted before, Link seems to be wearing an armor heavily based on Naydra, although this does not seem to be made of bone, but dragon scales. We yet again see Tulin emanating energy like in the last shot. Once again, we will talk about this a bit later in the analysis. We are then shown a quick shot of Amalik's explosion, which is almost identical to the one shown in the last trailer. This is undoubtedly a boss defeat explosion, the same kind as seen with the boss blights of the Divine Beasts, but it does seem like they intentionally hit the boss in this shot and only showcase the visual effect. Next, we see Zelda above ground for the first time in all of the trailers, as she looks down at her hands. Based on the angle of the shot, which is looking towards the Gerudo Highlands, it appears that Zelda is standing on a new Zonai structure somewhere behind the Temple of Time of the Great Plateau. We will talk about this structure a bit later. We are then followed by a close-up of what Zelda is holding, a golden tear-shaped stone that was previously seen in the shot where she spoke with the dragon person. This stone has etched into it the Recall Rune, which is a stylized depiction of the kanji for time, which means this must be the source of the Recall power, and given its shape, this must be one of the titular Tears of the Kingdom. Going back to this shot of Zelda falling, we can see that Zelda's hand is not only glowing, but closed. Could it be that she found the recall tear before encountering Ganondorf? If so, maybe that's how she survives the fall, by reversing time on herself and either breaking the fall, rewinding herself back to the surface, or perhaps rewinding herself back to the past. If what they are going with is having Link and Zelda split through time, then there is a genuine possibility of a playable Zelda in her own journey, similar to the original idea of having Zelda be playable in her side story when she reached the surface in Skyward Sword, which ended up getting scrapped and the cutscenes repurposed to be shown in the credits. But knowing Nintendo loves to reuse concepts, they very well may be going back to this idea and making it a reality. If this is true, and Zelda is indeed in the past, then this dragon character could in fact be the same being who sealed Ganondorf in the distant past. In fact, the shots we see of Ganondorf shows his toga without any deterioration, which shouldn't be the case as it was completely withered in his mummified state, so all of these shots of Ganondorf may actually be taking place in the past. Behind Zelda's hands, we can get a glimpse of the Master Sword, which is laying down atop a stone pedestal. Wherever Link is at this moment in the story, he does not have the Master Sword with him, which means that he will have to search for it as well. As Zelda looks at the stone, we hear her say,
I know why I am here. It's something only I can do.
We then see a shot of mummified Ganondorf, shooting torrents of malice to the ceiling of the cave he was sealed in, which connects directly to the other shot of the initial teaser, which would then cause Hyrule Castle to begin to rise into the sky. This shot of malice rising does not connect to the previous shot as the trailer may try to make us believe. Instead, I think it follows the shot of Ganon in front of the Blood Moon. The malice laser bursts into the sky, ejecting dozens of projectiles we have seen in the previous trailer, which land on all corners of Hyrule, spawning all kinds of enemies. This next shot is a continuation of the previous, with more enemies being spawned in Stunida's Basin, at the base of Hebra West Summit, consisting of several blue and red bokoblins and moblins, as well as 3 varieties of Lynels, a silver Lynel, a blue maned Lynel, and a white maned Lynel, all sporting new and unique horns. We then see an extended shot of Link's hand being viciously attacked by Ganon's malice, as we see it eating away at his champion's tunic and burning his skin. Being close to malice, the Master Sword is brightly glowing with its power to repel evil, but it has no effect on Ganon's powerful tendrils. Returning back to these previously mentioned Ganondorf shots, there are a few things to take into account. Firstly, this shot is taken directly from the Great Plateau, specifically from atop the Shrine of Resurrection, as we can see Mount Satori in the distance, as well as the cliff occluding the Colosseum ruins, where Ganondorf appears to be standing on a brand new Zonai structure, which was not present in Breath of the Wild. We can see in the distance that Mount Hebra does not have the giant hole on its side, a hole that was created by one of the blasts from the Divine Beasts in the battle from 10,000 years ago, which means that this is not only taking place in the past, but long before the events of the legend from 10,000 years ago, before Ganondorf became the Calamity. Something else to note with Ganondorf's design is that while we see him sporting a crimson beard, this is not seen on his mummified state, as perhaps due to his skin being desiccated, the facial hair all fell off. We also get a glimpse at another of the Zonai shrines, which based on this shot appears to replace this large tree found on the cliff near Rota-U's shrine, close to the Dig Dug suspension bridge. It is during these shots that we once again hear the voice of Ganondorf, voiced by none other than Matthew Mercer.
Do not look away. You witness a king's revival and the birth of his new world.
Following this, we see a shot of Link running from a large shark-like enemy swimming on the ground of one of the Sky Islands, which it seems to transform into the same type of sludge from the last shots as it moves, possibly being the source of this mysterious gooey substance. It instantly brings to mind the Gyox from the Wind Waker, or more accurately the Mal Gyorks from Spirit Tracks, which moved underneath the sands of the desert. Its color scheme also brings to mind the corrupted Naydra, as perhaps this is a sacred and benevolent creature that has been tainted by malice and driven mad, which Link now has to purify in the same way he did with Naydra. We then see Link and Tulin skydiving within the hurricane, as Tulin says to Link,
Okay, let's go!
As the camera pans down, we also get a quick glimpse of one of the skyships. We are then met with a beautiful tanned woman wearing the same Zonai dress as previously seen by Zelda, as well as the same earrings, with more elaborate tattoos on her arms, neck, and under her eyes compared to Zelda. Like Zelda, this mysterious woman possesses the same recall stone on her neck, which, like her hand, appears to be glowing as she seems to utilize its power. In the next shot, we witness a powerful beam of yellow light blasting away the group of Moldukas we saw approaching from the Taobab grasslands in the last trailer. The beam comes from the direction of the Great Plateau, however the structure we see is vastly different from anything in Breath of the Wild's plateau. However, we have already seen how there is previously unseen Zonai structures in the plateau, such as the ones Ganondorf is standing on in the last shots. So this, too, must be taking place in the distant past, long before the events of 10,000 years ago, with this woman more than likely being an ancient Zonai Princess Zelda. Behind this woman, we can see some mountains that match the topography of Mount Hylia, facing in the opposite direction of the Taobab grassland where the Moldukas are coming from, which indicates that she is indeed the one who generated this powerful beam, utilizing the stone housing the recall power, which is interesting given the fact that this power is used by Link to rewind time and not blast powerful beams as if he were a divine beast. We next see a shot of Riju, who is a bit older than how she was in Breath of the Wild. She can be seen wielding twin scimitars of the Seven, similar to her ancestor Urbosa, who instead of two, just wielded one alongside a Daybreaker shield. She can also be seen performing the recognizable move of her foremother, Urbosa's Fury. We then see a shot of Link alongside a group of Hyrule denizens, consisting of 5 Hylians, a Goron and a Gerudo, whom all seem to be ready for battle. Could it be that Link may be able to command characters during combat, essentially having his own personal army? Link is seen wielding a sword which is fused to the large horn from this big construct shown in official artwork, and in the sky behind them, we can also see the large island we keep being shown in the trailers. Following this, we see a shot of Link and Prince Sidon facing off against a construct, with Sidon wielding his sister's slice-scale trident in combat. This construct seems to be an even stronger version of the soldier constructs we've seen in prior shots. In fact, we may have already seen the 3-level varieties in this trailer alone, each variation having stronger weapons and more decorations on their heads to signify their power levels. This variation of the construct also appears to be wielding a spear which is very different from the one we saw Link wielding as he rode upon it towards Fort Ateno, with the construct piece on this new spear appearing to be the same type of horn as those of the regular soldier constructs. The islands Link and Sidon are standing on once again share the Sora motifs mixed with Zonai architecture we have been seeing in past shots, with unique constructions resembling fishermen tools, such as this harpoon-like structure in the distance. There also appears to be a mechanism which seems to be ejecting the same viscous brown fluid that we saw with both the vertical pillars, as well as the shark-like enemy, with our goal in this section of the game perhaps being shutting these generators down. But one thing that we must talk about is Sidon also having this teal glow around him, exactly like Tulin in prior shots. What could this be? I think I may have a good idea. It is clear that both Tulin and Sidon, and very likely Riju and Yunobo, are companions to Link, following and attacking enemies alongside the hero, seemingly being an expanded concept of Wolfling, with now having fully fledged companion characters throughout the journey. While they may just be follower characters, we could perhaps be able to switch between them to solve puzzles similar to how we were able to control both Link and Zelda in Spirit Tracks. Perhaps this could work in a similar way to the command melody from the Wind Waker or the Dominion Rod from Twilight Princess, where we could be able to take control of characters and use them in battle. But what if this is indicative of multiplayer gameplay, with the green energy representing someone controlling one or the other characters by means of online connectivity? In an interview with IGN, series producer Eiji Aonuma hinted that after the release of Breath of the Wild, he would have liked to see if they could somehow fuse those learning points into another multiplayer Zelda, following in the footsteps of both Triforce Heroes and Four Swords. And given Tears of the Kingdom is the next mainline Zelda game to release after Breath of the Wild, not counting remakes, this may be the game to include multiplayer functionality. We also hear a voice of a woman speaking to Link, who says,
"But you are not alone."
Who I believe to be the same woman we saw in the last shot of the trailer. We then see a close-up shot of Link in a room that has Malice missed, perhaps in the cavern where Ganondorf was sealed at the start of the game. But considering the patterns on Link's neck, this may be later in the story, perhaps even in the final moments of the game. This is then followed by a shot of Riju, Sidon and Tulin charging into battle, alongside who most likely will be Yunobo wielding Daruk's Boulder Breaker. Perhaps the reason Yunobo is hidden from view is that, like Riju and Tulin, he too has grown up, and may now sport a mighty Goron beard, making him resemble his grandfather Daruk, a surprise they may want to save for the game's release. But another possibility is that this rolling enemy seen in this shot is actually Yunobo himself, especially given the metal chain which resembles that of his grandfather, whose skin may have been completely burned by Malice in a similar way to Link's arm, thus explaining the secrecy with his design. Unlike the other shots, Tulin is seen wielding Rivali's Great Eagle Bow, rather than the Swallow Bow, which means this shot must take place much later in the story. We can also see that unlike in the previous shot, Sidon is wearing a crown, which may indicate that at some point in the story, he is crowned king, perhaps at the end of the Sora quest following the completion of this game's dungeon. This crown is identical to that of his father King Dorephan, so let's hope that he doesn't receive it as a result of his father's passing. But most interestingly, we can see that on his hand, he has a blue jewel very similar to the one held by Zelda and the mysterious Zonai woman. As mentioned previously, just like the Rito of this shot can also be seen holding another of these jewels, this one being green, Tulin can also be seen being in possession of it. And in the shot of Riju performing Urbosa's Fury, we can see that she too holds one of these relics on her earring, this one being amber in color. Tulin's green jewel is immediately recognizable, as the symbol on it is the same as the one seen on one of the pins of the collector's edition, which I already discussed in a prior video that is most likely to be the kanji for wind. And now that we not only see that it is held by Tulin, but also glows green like Rivali's Gale, it is undoubtedly the case. This means that Sidon's jewel is most likely a stylized depiction of the element of water, or perhaps the element of ice, both of which look incredibly similar. And while Riju's relic is too blurry to see, given that Sidon's and Tulin's represent the elements of water and wind respectively, hers most likely will show a stylized depiction of the kanji for lightning. And even though we can't see Yunobo, given that the other three champions have a tier depicting their respective elements, Yunobo would have one too, depicting the element of flame, with perhaps this obscured pin from the collector's edition being its symbol. On the hand of the dragon person, we can also see a white colored jewel emanating a faint golden light, which also has a symbol etched onto its surface, although we can't really see it well, but I am inclined to think that it may be this symbol from the Switch OLED, which I initially believed to be depicting the kanji for look, but may actually be depicting a stylized kanji for light, which would also make sense given that diamonds, which are white in color just like the jewel, hold the elemental power of light, and these jewels may be made of these gemstones to harness their powers. But there is one more tier that we have seen in the trailers, worn by another character you may not expect, Ganondorf himself, wearing a red jewel etched onto his crown, which perhaps may be the tier for the element of flame, or a completely unique tier tainted by his crimson malice. The jewel on Ganondorf's forehead when he's sealed appears to be greyish in colour, rather than the red seen on these shots and on this official artwork, which means that these gems have an activated and deactivated state, which can also be appreciated on this other artwork of Ganondorf. Interestingly enough, this gem was not present in the first teaser, with the gem rather than resembling a tear, being round instead, glowing a bright yellow, but this was updated on the remade shot shown in the second official trailer. This would make a total of 6 tiers revealed thus far. The yellow recall tier for time, blue for water, green for wind, amber for lightning, red for what we can only assume to be flame, with the white one from the dragon person depicting the element of light. But we know from the fresco of the first trailer that there is in fact 7 tiers, which could very likely also represent the 7 sages, with each tier representing one of their elements, albeit somewhat tweaked compared to those seen in Ocarina of Time, with wind replacing forest and lightning replacing spirit, so the remaining 7th power could perhaps be a purple one depicting the element of shadow, although this shadow tier could also be the one worn by Ganondorf, being separate from Yunobo's tier depicting flame, despite Ganondorf's tier being depicted as red, although his malice is often reddish purple, and both the time and light tiers are also similar in color. As we have recall among these tiers, it is safe to assume that Ultra Hand, Fuse and Ascend will also be part of these gems. Given how Ultra Hand is colored orange-red and looks like a flaming hand, it makes me think that this could be related to the power of flame. Ascend could perhaps be related to wind, as it is very similar to Revali's Gale, with Fuse being related to another of these tiers too, perhaps to the water power, as Ganondorf will have the shadow tier and the dragon person their tier of light. What if Ganondorf's ultimate goal in this game is to gather all of the tears of the kingdom, similar to Thanos collecting all of the Infinity Stones? Perhaps once you collect all the tears, the path to the true power of the gods, the Triforce, is revealed, granting you any wish you desire. Ganondorf, in all the games that he has been in as a Gerudo, has sought out the Triforce, and I don't think that Tears of the Kingdom will be any different. We are then shown a shot of Link running on the Great Bridge of Hylia, as he is faced by a massive 3-headed flame Gleeok, the same Gleeok we caught a glimpse of in the last trailer. Each of his 3 heads has one large malice eye, which will likely serve as the primary weak points of this giant Hydra. Link is then seen wielding yet another Fuse sword variety, this time appearing to be fused together with some form of large dragon scale, perhaps belonging to Naydra given the blue coloration, which may possess ice properties which will come in handy when facing this fire elemental Gleeok, as in Breath of the Wild, ice weapons were incredibly effective towards fire elemental enemies, and the same was true in reverse. We will probably see other scale varieties for the other dragons too, as well as ice and thunder variants of Gleeok, with maybe regular versions of Gleeok with a leveling system very much akin to those of Lizalfos, starting with green, then blue, black, silver, and a gold variety if they decide to bring those to the base game. But I can also see them making a Master Mode DLC like for Breath of the Wild to include the golden varieties. We once again are shown a shot of Princess Zelda atop the Sky Islands, this time holding the Master Sword as she says,
Link, you are our final hope.
Following this, we are finally shown the full fresco we saw glimpses of in the first official trailer, now seeing a full depiction of Ganondorf with the same horns we saw his demonic form have earlier in the trailer. This depiction is identical to the glimpse we saw of someone levitating an unconscious princess in the first official trailer, who now we know was Ganondorf levitating, whom is most likely this woman in this shot, who seems to also be the same woman as shown in this other fresco, alongside who we now know is the dragon person. The final shot we see of this trailer is Zelda standing atop a Sky Island, as she looks towards the Faron Sea, from the exact same position as this shot earlier in the trailer. This structure Zelda is standing on is the exact same one seen floating in the sky, which confirms that Zelda was in the same exact island that Link likely starts his adventure in. However, the altitude of the island and the shot of Zelda do not match at all, with Zelda being much lower in elevation, in the exact same altitude as the Temple of Time. This means that Zelda must have been sent to the past, to a time where these islands were not in the sky, but on the ground, while Link is instead exploring these structures which are now mysteriously floating in the sky, but the reason as to why or how is completely unknown. This means that the structure seen here is more than likely a Zonai equivalent to the Temple of Time. As Zelda possesses both the Broken Master Sword and the Recall Power, she may place them both somewhere in the island for Link to obtain in his own time once these islands rise to the sky, with perhaps the Master Sword stored within the large temple. As the camera pans upward to show the Faron Sea, we hear Zelda say,
Link, you must find me.
And that is the end of the trailer, but there is more that we can cover outside of it, as more artwork was revealed of several key characters. Firstly, we have official artwork of the Demon King. He looks like a Japanese warrior, having his hair tied up in a ponytail and seemingly shorter compared to how long it was in his mummified state. He is seen wielding a long katana-like blade, which may be his primary weapon of choice. However, the murals of the revealed trailer showed Ganondorf on horseback wielding his iconic trident, so expect to see that weapons return. We also have another artwork of Ganondorf facing forward, making it so that we have both an idle and action pose artwork of Ganondorf, as well as for the other characters. As I mentioned earlier in the analysis, the gems on his forehead on both artworks are of different colors, perhaps as in one of them it is active and in the other inactive. We then have two artworks of Tulin, where he is seen wielding a swallow bow. Next, we see artworks of Prince Sidon, who is seen wielding his sister's light-scale trident. And finally, we have artworks of Riju who, like Tulin, has grown up. She is seen wielding two scimitars of the Seven, unlike Urbosa, who only wielded one, and she also cut her hair short, just like Zelda, perhaps as she will be involved in much more action-packed scenarios and battles, and having long hair would have the problem of it clipping through her body. We also have a photo on the back of a download card in Japan, which includes a new shot of the re-dead Ganondorf with his glowing red malice eyes, as well as another new shot with the new woman from the trailer alongside the dragon person. We also have new information shown on the official Tears of the Kingdom website. We are officially revealed that Link will start his journey on the islands that suddenly appeared in the skies of Hyrule, and that, much like how we obtained the runes of the Sheikah Slate in the Great Plateau before being allowed to leave it, we will gain new abilities before returning to the Surfer's World. We are also revealed that the sky is not the only thing that has changed in Hyrule, as known locations have been drastically changed with the additions of new towns, caves and expansive chasms deep under Hyrule's surface. The underground chasms of Hyrule definitely seem to be incredibly large, and I can't wait to get to explore them in less than a month. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get notified of future uploads. Also, consider following me on Twitter and Instagram to stay in touch. This has been Zelda Lore, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.